Fairy Dirt by Thomley. Chapter 8.
Hello, Brynn.
The voice coming from behind startled her. She quickly swallowed her food before starting to turn around. The man behind the voice had beautiful golden curls covering the sides of his pale face. His eyes were a stunning mix of green and gold in a brilliant starburst pattern.
I'm glad to find you doing so well, Max. I see that someone has already figured out your daylight conundrum. I didn't notice you downstairs, so I'm assuming that you came from the outside. Is that right? Well done, Philia.
He winked at Brynn. Max, do you know this guy? What's going on? Brynn asked, feeling more confused now than she was when she found out Fiona was trying to help her. Why did this kind of thing keep happening to her?
My sweet Brynn, I think that you know who I am.
As if on cue, his wings came out with his last word. They were beautiful. They were huge and white, just like hers. Your wings, she trailed off, wonder in her eyes. She had never seen another person with angel wings. How was this possible?
This is the man who turned me into a vampire, Brynn.
Max finally spoke, but in such a whisper she could barely hear him.
I am much more than your maker, Maximilian. I must apologize. I suppose I never did properly introduce myself to you. My name is...
Vincent. Your name is Vincent, isn't it? Brynn whispered as a tear fell from her eye. She couldn't believe it was really him.
What the hell is going on, Brynn?
Max asked, almost shouting. She could feel the anger ready to pour out of him.
Who the hell is this guy? How do you know him? Is he friends with Fiona or something? Do you know him too?
I am her father, Max. She has been kept away from me since she was merely a toddler. When Fiona spoke to me about Brynn and a mortal boy, I knew I had to help her. This was my chance to be there for her in a way that no one else would be so willing.
That doesn't even make sense, man. How can you be Brynn's father if you are a vampire and help her? This seems like a far cry from help.
Max demanded.
Supernatural lines do not always create immunity from one another. A fairy, such as I, can be turned into a vampire just as easily as a human can. A fairy can just as easily become a wolf. I was turned into a vampire after Fiona was born. The others would not accept me any longer, so I was forced to withdraw from the life I knew and loved. I wanted my family to come with me, but Cheyenne would have nothing to do with it. I had no choice but to leave and watch my family grow from a distance. I reached out to Fiona a few years ago, and we have kept our relationship a secret from everyone. They would send her away if they knew she was speaking with me.
Brynn just sat at the table, silently crying. Her entire world had just been set in a tailspin. She was furious at Fiona for keeping this secret and their father all to herself. She was angry at her mother for choosing to keep them away from him. And why Fiona, anyway? Why was she the only one who got to have this secret family connection? So far, the only thing she wasn't mad about was him turning Max into a vampire. None of this made any sense.
Why don't we go somewhere a little more private?
Vincent suggested, seeing how flustered Brynn was getting, and they both got up from their seats and followed him to the door leading underground. They had far too many questions to protest. Both of them needed answers. It was cold and dark underneath the restaurant. There were different paths jetting off in various directions. It was as if there were passageways to anywhere a vampire would need to go. This was a good thing to keep in mind for Max if and when the sunlight spell stopped working. As it stood, neither of them knew how long it might hold up. Vincent seemed to know where he was going. How long had it all been down here, she wondered. He definitely seemed to know the underground system well. Being a vampire for 13 years, she was sure he knew a lot of things vital to staying alive. Those were all tips that she hoped he planned to share with Max. She didn't know a great deal about vampires, but it was always said that makers had a close relationship with their progenies. So far, that wasn't the case at all. They stopped walking when they came to a door. Aliger was written on the front in gold script. It was her last name. She knew that they had arrived at her father's house. Vincent slipped an ornate skeleton key into the lock and they followed him inside. It was exactly what she expected a vampire's house to look like. It was very dark, with a small bed in the corner draped in black satin bedding. On the other side of the room was a black leather couch and recliner. There appeared to be an upper level, but the door leading upstairs was closed. She assumed that the majority of his time was spent downstairs, where there were no windows. It was still daylight outside, so she understood why he didn't invite them upstairs. They each took a seat on the couch as Vincent lit a few candles. "Why haven't you helped Max adjust to his new life? You just turned him and left him. I thought that makers were close with their progenies." Vincent looked surprised at Brynn's sudden urge to speak up. The question also seemed to catch him off guard. He was probably expecting a barrage of questions about her personal life, but right now she was more concerned for Max.
You are right, and I have every intention of having that relationship with Max. I needed to wait until the time was right. I was waiting for a time like this. I knew if Max spent time with me, he would know that you and I were connected. That wouldn't be safe for you. Plus, I wanted you to find all of this out from me, not someone else.
The candles flickered behind them. Max was still sitting silently, trying to take everything in. His anger was slowly fading, but it was just met with more confusion.
It is especially important, Brynn, for you to keep all of this a secret. If you are to have any type of normal life, the others can never know that you are seeing me. They will cast you out in the blink of an eye, and your mother will be too afraid to speak up on your behalf. It is a risk to even speak of it with Fiona. She was lucky to not get caught approaching me with your predicament. That goes for Max as well. Even though he is no longer in danger for knowing about what you are, they will still send you away for having a relationship with him. They do not trust vampires.
Maybe I don't want a normal life. I hate it at home. I suck at spellcasting, and everyone treats me like an outsider. Why would I want to stay there if I had a chance to live a different life? It's a shitty life.
Because different is not always better, Brynn. You have the protection of the other fairies there. You would be on your own without them, and trust me, there are a lot of people who would kill a fairy just for getting in their way. The only reason I have survived this long is because I am also a vampire. I can't make you do anything, especially after so many years of absence. I'm just asking you to think about it.
He ran his fingers through his hair, clearly overwhelmed. "Why Fiona?" she asked meagerly. Her veracity was starting to fade.
What do you mean?
I mean, why her and not me? Do you know what a punch to the gut it is to find out she has gotten to know you? I'm left out of everything. She treats me like shit. Everyone ignores me at home. My casting is inconsistent at very best. Fiona gets it all? Why her?
Brynn, I'm sorry for what life has been for you. I mean it when I say that it hurts me to know. I beg to not be separated from you girls. As for why her, it was all about opportunity. She happened to be somewhere alone. I saw her and decided to approach. It wasn't safe for me to find you yet.
Brynn brushed her long brown hair out of her face and began wrapping the blue part around one of her fingers. Twirling her hair was a nervous habit she had had since she was a small child. Most of the time, she didn't even realize she was doing it. "Okay, I will think about it then. I'm not making any promises, though. Why do they hate vampires so much that they would cast you out anyway?"
It is because of fear. Vampires once threatened the very existence of fairies. It was thought that if you consumed the blood of the fae, you could absorb their powers. There was a rampage fueled by horrible bloodlust. It was so bad, it could have wiped everyone out.
Is that true? Is our blood that powerful?
Why don't you ask Max? He did taste your blood, didn't he?
She didn't even ask how he knew about that. Blood rushed to her cheeks, and she knew that there was no concealing her embarrassment. She turned to Max, who seemed surprised to be questioned. Neither of them tried to deny that it happened.
I don't feel like I have any type of new power. I wouldn't really know how to find out anyway.
Max said with a frown.
It was powerful, though, and I healed quickly after. I just figured that would happen with any blood. I had nothing to compare it to.
She smiled at Max and was surprised about how at ease she felt sitting in the home of a man she knew nothing about. And in a home where she was alone with vampires at that. Something about Vincent seemed genuine. She didn't think that he was lying to her about anything. So far, Fiona had been safe, and she had spent time with him. Besides, he turned Max for her. Even if the others did find out about them, now she knew that they would just cast her out rather than trying to eradicate either of them. As crazy as it all was, it was a relief.
You should be getting back before they suspect something. You can get out from upstairs. I'm sure you will understand if I don't show you out. While I still possess my fairy powers, I choose not to use them on myself. It is safer for me that way. If you need me for anything, Brynn, just have Max summon me. As for you, Maximilian, meet me here tonight to begin your Vampire 101 lessons. We will get this relationship on the right track. I'm sorry it has taken this long.
He chuckled as they headed upstairs. Please like and subscribe for more free audiobook content.